Let's talk about avoiding the big mistake. Back in 2017 in the Venice, Italy marathon, there was a group of 6 runners who got out to a lead about 16 miles into the race. Unfortunately for them, the motorcycle that they were following took a wrong turn, led them off the marathon course for a couple hundred meters before finally race officiants had to flag them down and let them know that they had to go back the way they came. And in that process, all 6 of them ended up losing their lead, and the guy who won was somebody else altogether. And it's a beautiful picture, no, not beautiful picture, it's a sad picture of, I think, what happens sometimes in our financial race, if we want to think of it that way. And that is, you can work really hard and be doing everything right for a long time, and then undo all of that progress. That lead, quote unquote, that you've built can be undone with one mistake, one misstep. And so today, let's just talk about avoiding the big mistake. And what I've come to realize as an advisor is that my value to clients is, yes, in some proactive things and some ongoing things that we do throughout the year, certainly, but many times, oftentimes, the biggest value is simply helping people to avoid those big mistakes. There's a great sketch by Carl Richards. He's a great author and speaker on all things finance. It's a very simple sketch. I don't have rights to the image, but you can Google it. There's on one side of the paper is just the word you, and the other side of the paper is the big mistake. And in between is a rectangle, kind of looks like a little wall, and inside that is written your advisor. And it's just a great visual encapsulation of what a good advisor is supposed to do. Is their job is to help people stay away from making crucial errors that will undo all of their progress. I had an advisor tell me years ago, he said, our job is to tell clients, don't do that, which of course is a huge oversimplification, but I understand what he was getting at, which is there are certain things that will lead to success for our clients, and those things are usually steady and slow and boring. And we've got to keep them on that slow and steady, boring route and keep them from all the things that are going to tempt them to get off course, and the things that will try to lure them away from that slow and steady path to financial success, and be ready to say, hey, that's not a good idea. Hey, let's talk about this. Hey, let's think about the implications, the pros and the cons here, and keep people from making a big mistake. So there's, and this could be in the form of a lot of things, honestly. The options are endless. I mean, it could be in the form of trying, people trying to buy their dream home before they can afford it. It could be they want to take investment advice from their brother-in-law, and their brother-in-law doesn't know what he's talking about. It could be buying a product from this guy that had a really fancy dinner seminar presentation, but it's not a good fit for their situation. And it's our job in those moments to lovingly and tactfully say, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. Please don't do that. And what I've learned as a financial planner is that there are really 2 different types of value that I'm providing for clients. One is relatively easy to explain and to quantify, and the other not so much. But the one that's hard to quantify and hard to explain very often is the more important value. So the ongoing value, that's pretty straightforward. So as a financial planner, like many other advisors, there's some things that we would do on a monthly or on a quarterly or on a yearly basis for clients that are pretty consistent, and things that we know ahead of time we're going to be doing. Things like rebalancing investments to make sure they stay at the appropriate risk level for that client. Selecting the appropriate investments, making sure that they're invested in the right types of things for their risk level, for their goals, for their time frame. Reviewing taxes, looking at different tax saving strategies on a regular basis, making sure that they're maximizing their benefits, their 401k, if they have a health savings account available to them, going through their workplace benefit options, making sure that they're maximizing them, making sure that they have the right coverages for life insurance. Do they need life insurance? What type of life insurance? Monitoring their progress, updating goals, adjusting the plan. All of these are going to be proactive on an ongoing, regular interval basis, and there's a lot of value and importance to those. But the other type of value is the avoiding the big mistake value. These fork in the road moments that are hard to predict, and we don't usually know that they're coming until they're here. And in those moments, choosing the right path can be super, super crucial and consequential to your financial success. These could be things like whether to buy this home or whether to buy this rental property, whether I should retire now or in 3 years from now. Should I start this new job? Should I start my own business? Should I take Social Security at 62, at 67, at 70? Should I buy life insurance? What type of life insurance should I buy? Should I take out this mortgage? Should I take out this student loan? Should I pay my kids way through college, or should I have them take out student loans? What should I do with this inheritance? Should I pay off my mortgage? Should I invest this? Should I put my money into this newest thing, whether it's crypto or NFTs or Pokemon cards or whatever the newest fad is? All of these things can be very big fork in the road moments, where as a planner, as an advisor, I need to be able to stand in that gap and help my clients avoid the big mistake. And I got to thinking in my own experience as a planner, what would be some examples that come to mind for me of times where this has happened? And in almost every case, these were not things that we planned on doing when we started the relationship. Like, this was not like, all right, we're going to work as a planner and this is the big thing I want you to help me out with. It just became the thing the more we talked, or the longer our relationship grew, or just circumstances changed in their own life. So for example, when to claim Social Security, a situation where you have a spouse where one of them is going to get a relatively small Social Security and the other one's going to get a relatively high Social Security. What do we do? How do we maximize this? What makes most sense? And in that scenario, what made most sense is for the spouse with the smaller benefit to claim early, the spouse with the higher benefit to claim as late as possible, not only because that spouse with the higher benefit would most likely have a higher benefit over the long term, but also if that spouse with the higher benefit were to pass away first, the spouse would be entitled to their higher benefit. So you want to lock in the higher benefit later on. That could add thousands and thousands of dollars to their bottom line, and it would not have been the option that they would have gone with had we not talked about that ahead of them claiming. A client that had a timeshare that was just starting to drain their cash flow every year, and they wanted to get out of it and talk to a timeshare exit company, and we were able to help them navigate that to where not only did they end up paying $15,000 less to get out of the timeshare, but now they're saving that much. They're saving thousands of dollars every year by not having to do those annual fees. Talked to another client where they didn't realize the money that they had inside their retirement workplace plan was all in conservative bond funds, where they were 20 plus years away from retirement. So we had to shift that to make sure that much of that money went into growth funds that were probably going to return 4 or 5% higher than what they had their money in. That could be the difference of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time that they retire. Another client received an inherited IRA, not really sure of the rules, when to take the money out, how much to take out each year, what's the best way to structure the investments inside of it. So not only helping clients to save probably 10 to 20% of that money in taxes that may have gone to the IRS if they went with the first option that they were thinking about doing, but also being able to add growth to that over a period of years so that they will end up with even more money when it's all said and done. A client that wanted to do some charitable giving, not really sure of the different tax strategies available to them, help them save a ton of money, like in the 6 figures in tax bill, and then be able to maximize the gift that they were going to be giving to the church and different charitable organizations that they wanted to support. A win-win there. Another client that needed to evaluate their rental property, felt like it was a good cash flowing property, but on further inspection realized this isn't really cash flowing the way that I want it to be cash flowing, and this money would be better deployed elsewhere. Now, those are just some examples that came to mind initially. What's ironic about all of these scenarios is that in many of them, the amount of money that I helped the client save or to gain by that one piece of advice has been more than the fees that they've paid me in our entire working relationship up to this point. Now, that's not always the case that, one piece of advice and I'm going to multiple years of fees I'm going to save you or gain you, but very often that is the case. And that's just from that one piece of advice, nothing else that we've done, not including anything else that we've done up to this point. And I think that's what makes this line of work just so unique. And that is, sometimes the value that I'm providing as a planner is in drips and drops on, through regular review meetings and things like this. But then sometimes it's served in a 10-gallon drum, and it's just in these asymmetrical moments in that relationship. Maybe it's once every 5 years or 7 years. And the analogies that come to mind, it's kind of like the fire department. You know, you rarely need the fire department, but when a fire breaks out, boy, are you glad that it's there. You wouldn't walk into the fire station and see the firefighters on call eating a meal or playing a video game and be like, oh, this is a waste. What do you guys even do? We don't need the fire department. No, you realize that they are the only ones standing between you and potential disaster, and you're very thankful to have a fire department or an air traffic control, right? Usually air traffic control's job is pretty boring, pretty blah, not too much going on. But every now and then, once in a blue moon, there's a near collision in the air, on the runway, and you realize just how valuable it is that there's somebody in that air traffic control tower who's looking out and making sure that disaster does not strike. And as a financial planner, that is a big value that we need to bring to clients. And that is being able to step in those crucial moments, those fork in the road moments, and say, hey, let me help you to avoid that big mistake. Let me help you, like the marathon runners, not to go the wrong way and undo this big lead that you've already gained. Let me keep you on the path that you need to be going on. And that's why financial planning is not just about the spreadsheets. It's not just about the performance reports. It's so much bigger than that. And a lot of times what happens is those fork in the road moments are what cause people to reach out. You know, they're facing, what do I do with this inheritance? What do I do about retirement? Do I retire now and 3 years from now? I've got this potential big tax bill, anything I can do to save on that? I'm trying to navigate how I'm gonna replace my income in retirement. So to go back to that marathon analogy, a lot of times you don't even need help until you desperately do. And sometimes that's when I'm stepping in, is when people realize, uh-oh, I've gone down the wrong road. But in your life right now, maybe you're at a fork in the road moment. Maybe you're not. Whether you're at a fork in the road moment right now or not, just know that you will be. and if you're not at a fork in the road moment right now, just realize that you will be. And having an advisor, having a planner that can stand between you and that big mistake can not only save you a lot of money, but a lot of headache. So as I've always said, if you listen to the podcast or watch the YouTube channel regularly, you can always reach out to me with questions, info@nateskelly.com, or go to my website, nateskelly.com, and schedule a call with me there. Always happy to help provide guidance or insight anytime there's those types of questions. So hope that was helpful to you. Thanks as always for listening, for watching. I'll see you on our next episode.